know we've been on this racist propaganda about black people in America and its foundation or whatnot, because we got to explode that information. And see, I was in here watching this documentary or whatnot. You see what I'm saying? About, Darwinism and how they had black people in human zoos in America. It just was amazing to me to see this. And I want y'all to like, subscribe, and share right quick. And I'm going to play a little bit of it. We're going to come back and build on.
Leading men of science from Harvard and Princeton and Columbia University were saying that Africans were midway between an orangutan and a human being. So 100 years later, it should not come as much of a surprise that many people still cling to these notions of European superiority, African inferiority.
The year was 1859. 3 months after Charles Darwin published his book on the origin of species, American promoter P.T. Barnum unveiled a new attraction at his popular museum in New York City. It featured what was described as the "What is it?" or man-monkey. Visitors were told that the creature had been captured by hunters in Africa, who discovered a race of beings roving among the trees and branches like apes and monkeys. Museum staff declared that the creature had been pronounced by scientists as a connecting link between African blacks and lower animals. In reality, Barnum's so-called man-monkey was an African-American man named William Henry Johnson. Thanks to Barnum, Johnson spent much of his life on public display as an evolutionary missing link, sometimes in a cage. Many reporters at the time were happy to promote the deception. The New York Tribune declared that Barnum's performer seemed to be a cross between an ape species and a Negro, while another paper declared,
"The head is shaped like that of a monkey, but the face is more like that of an African Negro of the lower order. It has been pronounced by naturalists as a specimen of the connecting link between man and monkey."
Many more supposed missing links were marketed to the public at freak shows throughout America. In the 1880s, there was Crow, promoted as living proof of Darwin's theory of the descent of man. She was described as a perfect specimen of the step between man and monkey. Actually, Crow was a young woman from Southeast Asia who suffered from hypertrichosis, a rare genetic condition that produces excessive hair. In the early 1900s, there was Congo, the ape man, usually exhibited in a cage next to a chimpanzee. Most of these early presentations of missing links were crude hoaxes put forward by hucksters, not scientists. But the quest to dramatize the lower stages of human evolution eventually reached far beyond freak shows. It ultimately involved the most elite members of the scientific community, and it was given a platform at one of the most celebrated events in early 20th century America. Today, Forest Park in St. Louis is a place for walking, or riding a bicycle, or spending a quiet Sunday afternoon. But more than a century ago, it was one of the most visited locations in the entire United States, the site of the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair. Attracting more than 19 million visitors, the World's Fair was known for its lavish neoclassical buildings, its 22-story-high Ferris wheel, and the public debut of innovations such as the X-ray machine and the ice cream cone. But the fair had a darker side. Organizers imported thousands of indigenous peoples from around the world to be put on public display in what was essentially a giant human zoo. Unlike freak shows, the Human Zoo in St. Louis was created with the cooperation of America's scientific establishment. The man behind the Human Zoo was anthropologist William McGee. One of the nation's leading scientists, McGee had already served as acting president of the American Association for the Advancement of Science. In 1903, he was asked to head the anthropology department for the World's Fair. McGee had grand plans of presenting the story of human evolution by displaying representatives of what he considered lower stages of the human race. McGee's plans reflected the ideas of mainstream anthropology of the time.
Anthropology was kind of founded on this idea of mapping civilization from the highest to the lowest, right? With the lowest at that time said to be Africans, and then you sort of move up. Leading men of science from Harvard and Princeton and Columbia University were saying that Africans were midway between an orangutan and a human being.
Like many scientists of his day, McGee drew inspiration for his ideas on human development from Darwin's theory that humans had evolved from ape-like ancestors.
Darwin's theory provided a template for categorizing Africans as biological inferiors. His impact created a bandwagon effect on many scholars on both sides of the Atlantic. Africans were demeaned with terms like savages and compared to animals. Admittedly, some of these comparisons were used before Darwin, but after Darwin, they increasingly took on the authority of science.
Darwin argued that the break in evolutionary history between apes and men came between Africans and Australian Aborigines and gorillas. In other words, he thought blacks were the closest humans to apes. German scientist Ernst Haeckel helped popularize the idea.
Ernst Haeckel was the leading German Darwinist in the late 19th and early 20th century. He corresponded extensively with Darwin, and Darwin recognized Haeckel's affinity with his own theory.
Ernst Haeckel also is known for his raving racism. And in fact, he had a graphic of the history of human evolution that, in very pointed terms, really embedded a racist view of human evolution. You had the Teutonic male on the top, the sort of Germanic male, and then at the bottom you had some creatures that looked partly like apes, partly like Jews. He was also anti-Semitic. And in the middle, you had the transition from the ape-like creatures to the first human creatures. The ape-like creatures look pretty much like they're Africans. And the takeaway point that Ernst Haeckel had from this graph was that the difference between the highest human being and the lowest human being, the gap between the highest Teutonic male and the first human being that was just one step above the apes, was larger than the gap between the lowest human being and the highest ape.
At the St. Louis World Fair, William McGee expressed a similar view, arguing that scientists had now shown
the structure of the lowest humans more nearly resembles that of the highest ape-like animals than that of the highest humans.
Like other scientists of the era, McGee saw primitive non-white peoples as living evidence of man's evolutionary history.
The savage stands strikingly close to subhuman species in every aspect of mentality, as well as in bodily habits and bodily structure.
McGee was determined to use primitive peoples at the fair to dramatize for the public the different stages of human evolution, beginning with races he considered lowest on the evolutionary scale. McGee arranged for native peoples to be put on display in villages designed to recreate their native habitats. These villages were enclosed by fences, making them truly seem like human zoos. More than 4 million fairgoers reportedly visited these anthropological displays, eagerly staring at and poking.
All right, family. So, even since the beginning of time of America, they've been promoting racism in America. You know, even the white people done being programmed to not like white people that been programmed to not like black people. You see what I'm saying? It's programming. That's all that it is, family. So at the end of the day, when you look at the making of America or whatnot, it's always gonna be, okay, you know, black against white. You see what I'm saying? Because they believe in the superior white race. They're superior. That's what they believe in, and that's what they rocking with. The superior white race or whatnot. You see what I'm saying? And I wanted to deal with them because, like I said, we need to put some C4 on this information and blow that shit to oblivion. Because, you know, we just did a video on the coronavirus or whatnot. I be saying coronavirus. The coronavirus or whatnot. But and the scientist is saying the African skin or black skin is repelling the coronavirus. And because it got, you know, a more, you know, it can, you know, repel more diseases or anything than white skin or lighter colored skin. So we just was listening to the geneticists, and I'm gonna play a little bit more, and then I'm gonna come back. But we was listening to the geneticists, and they sitting up there saying, "Oh, African people is inferior." You see what I'm saying? Then they got, you know, black people in the zoo. They got black at the Brooklyn Zoo. You go in there and looking at some tigers or something. Just less than 100 years ago, they had black people in there, you know, with monkeys and had them running around like they in Africa or whatnot, in order to put them on display with this propaganda to feed into the American people that black people and Native American people is less than white people. So this shit been banged and banged and banged into the American public head. That's just facts. I'm gonna play a little bit more and then I'm gonna come
When
back.
he served as acting president of the American Association for the Advancement of Science. SS Armenian from Liverpool. He was accompanied by 2 chimpanzees, a snake, a parrot, and 50 boxes of materials from Africa that he hoped to sell to museums. He was also joined by Ota Benga. Werner quickly departed New York, leaving Benga at the American Museum of Natural History in Manhattan. Established in 1869, the museum was already becoming one of the premier scientific institutions in the world. Ota Benga was largely left free to wander the museum's exhibit halls. When Samuel Werner eventually returned to New York, he was fighting off creditors, and the museum wanted him to find new lodgings for Ota Benga. So Werner worked out an agreement to move Ota Benga to the New York Zoological Park, otherwise known as the Bronx Zoo. Spread over more than 260 acres, the Bronx Zoo had been envisioned by its founders as the largest zoo in the world and the grandest zoological establishment on Earth. The zoo was directed by William Temple Hornaday. A noted zoologist, Hornaday formerly worked at the Smithsonian, and he had already founded the National Zoo in Washington, D.C. Overseeing Hornaday was an executive committee chaired by Henry Fairfield Osborn, a distinguished professor at Columbia University. Hornaday and Osborn had dreams of exhibiting more than just animals at their new zoo. Both wanted to install Native Americans on zoo grounds, with Osborn promising that one day the Indian and his teepee would take their place next to the zoological park's buffalo. Now they had their chance to put their first human on display. Hornaday quickly agreed to purchase one of Werner's chimpanzees and to house both the chimp and Ota Benga at the zoo. Hornaday planned to exhibit the pygmy and the chimpanzee together in a cage in the zoo's monkey house.
It was presented as science, not as a circus act, because these were men of science who were doing this.
Ota Benga went on display in the monkey house on Saturday, September the 8th, 1906. The next day, a sign was placed on the cage explaining the new exhibit.
The African Pygmy, Ota Benga. Age 23 years. Height 4 feet 11 inches. Weight 103 pounds. Brought from the Kasai River, Congo Free State. Exhibited each afternoon during September.
Thousands of New Yorkers came to stare and laugh and debate the meaning of the display. Is it a man? Some of them wondered. Newspaper coverage brought even more people, and in just a few weeks, the zoo drew nearly 250,000 visitors. But the notoriety also brought controversy. New York's clergy, in particular, were horrified at what they saw as a dehumanizing spectacle. First to speak out was the Reverend Robert Stewart MacArthur, pastor of the city's Calvary Baptist Church, one of the largest Baptist congregations in America.
The person responsible for this exhibition degrades himself as much as he does the African. Instead of making a beast of this little fellow, he should be put in school.
Ministers from New York's African American community soon organized a protest committee. After visiting the zoo and seeing Benga for themselves, they were horrified.
They thought it was outrageous. They clearly saw a human being who appeared to be afraid, who was being heckled and jeered at and things thrown at him, and he was being, debased on the hallowed grounds of the New York Zoological Society in New York City.
The ministers demanded that Ota Benga be taken off display and be offered an education. James H. Gordon, superintendent of the Howard Colored Orphan Asylum in Brooklyn, appealed to the zoo to end the spectacle.
If Professor Werner found difficulty in disposing of the boy, why did he not apply to us? We would have seen that he was well cared for.
Gordon also denounced the way the young African was being used as a prop to prove Darwinian evolution.
This is a Christian country, and the exhibition evidently aims to be a demonstration of the Darwinian theory of evolution. The Darwinian theory of evolution absolutely is opposed to Christianity, and a public demonstration in its favor should not be permitted. Neither the Negro nor the white man is related to the monkey. Such an exhibition only degrades a human being's manhood. We do not like this exhibition of one of our race with the monkeys. Our race, we think, is depressed enough without exhibiting one of us with the apes. We think we are worthy of being considered human beings with soul.
Samuel Werner tried to deflect the criticism, denying that he put Ota Benga on display to show that he was somehow subhuman.
If Ota Benga is in a cage, he is only there to look after the animals.
Zoo director Hornaday meanwhile declared that the black minister's protest was ridiculous.
Though a believer myself in the Darwinian theory, I had no idea of using the exhibition to enforce it. The boy is on exhibition simply because the public wishes to see him. He is well treated and happy. To say that the boy is placed in the cage to show his similarities to the monkey is nonsense. He is much more intelligent than many white men whom I have known.
Hornaday made clear that he wasn't about to shut down the popular exhibit.
The exhibition shall certainly be continued, unless the directors of the park decide otherwise.
But the leaders of the New York Zoological Society were pleased by the display. Henry Fairfield Osborne even congratulated Hornaday for the excellent press coverage, commenting that Benga is certainly making his way successfully as a sensation.
Now, so they got African people, black people, displayed in zoos. And our people used to protest against our people being, put on Front Street like that. You see what I'm saying? And see, they believe to this day in that Darwinism. That's facts. That's facts. This is racist science. scientific racism. You see what I'm saying? And it's promoted by the Western media to the Western world. So when, you know, the Western world see black people or whatnot, they look down upon them because of this 1900 history. You see what I'm saying? And then goofy black people internalize this and self-hate and look in the mirror, and this is what they see themselves as less than. That's just facts. It's self-hate. And we, as some black people, done internalized it. But see, we got to realize we got to step up out of that situation mentally. That's facts. Because people if you thought that was Africa, right here, you gonna automatically run from that. You see, this is where African booty scratcher come from. This is where all this information come from, this negative propaganda against black people. You see Sambo and all of that, all tar baby soap and all. Well, I showed y'all that tar baby soap and all. This is what they used to promote, to have that stepping stool. You see what I'm saying? It gotta be if it's gonna be a rich class, it gotta be a poor class. You see what I'm saying? Everybody just can't be rich in a capitalistic society. You see what I'm saying? And the white people, being in control of this society or whatnot, all their propaganda was to fight against black people. You see what I'm saying? So Akon said black America was never made for black people, even though black people built America. You see what I'm saying? But it was made, it's like going in the casino, right? And you the dollar that they put in the jackpot machine. And when you pull it down, you see what I'm saying? And your money get ate by the machine. The United States is the machine and black people is the money. You understand that? Meaning the United States, no different than any casino, was built for you to lose as a black person. It was built against you. That's why black people become a little bit successful. A little bit. They feel like they done conquered the world because they know this society been put against them. You see what I'm saying? It's like playing the game and thinking you gonna win, but you always lose. You got the hope, and it's promoted to you that you could win. At this slot machine or whatnot, $5,000 if you put the quarter in at the right time. But you just keep putting quarters in just off that hope that you gonna win. That quarter that you in that hope, that's the American dream. You see what I'm saying? That's just on the jackpot machine. It say the American dream. And you keep putting quarters and dollars in it, feeding it, think it's going to treat you better than it ever have when it's a system set up against you to lose. That's your point blank period, family. Hope y'all like this video. I got another video to do, so I got to move on to the next one. And you see how they had this little twa brother in here talk about we the closest to the monkey and the superior man is the white man. You done lost your mind, family. You done lost your mind. So, see y'all in a minute. Drop out.